Hey everyone, this is Brandon Rush. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Agent Investor. The goal of The Agent Investor is to help our audience make informed decisions in terms of their commercial and multifamily assets through having conversations with those who are in the commercial and multifamily space. So today we have a good friend of mine, Jose Crespo of Precise HVAC Home Services. Jose is a good friend of mine through my BNI group out here in Central Connecticut. How are you doing today, Jose?
I'm doing really good, Brandon. Thank you very much for asking. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing amazing. I'm doing good. But yeah, like I said, I know Jose through my DNI, and we're going to jump right to it. Jose, tell the audience about yourself, what you do, how you affiliated with commercial and multifamily real estate.
Absolutely. So, one thing I want to say, Brandon, is thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure and I really appreciate it. So, again, my name is Jose Crespo. The industry that I have a big background in is HVAC. So, for a lot of people that don't know what the HVAC stands for, right? It's heating, ventilation, air conditioning. And I emphasize it because a lot of homeowners still say to this day, what does that mean? Which a lot of them have gained what it means. But so we do heating, air conditioning, ventilation. Been in the business for 17 years now, going on 18 years. It's been quite the roller coaster, but a fun ride. It's an extremely fun ride. The biggest issues that I've seen in the commercial applications, multifamilies, is that it's lack of maintenance is one of the biggest things that I've seen in them. And homeowners look at it and say, well, it's working, then why bother and fix it, or why bother even paying attention to doing anything to it? Well, here's the thing: if you don't, it's better to fix it, it's better to maintain it, it's better to take care of your HVAC system now, because if you don't, you're going to have that angry tenant at 10 p.m. at night giving you a call saying, hey, my heat doesn't work. And
Hmm.
that's not really what you're looking for in getting that phone call at 10 o'clock at night. You know, it's a very inexpensive thing to do. Get your system checked.
Got it. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to dive right into it. This first question we have here. When it comes to multifamily buildings, what are some of the common HVAC challenges you see with property owners that they should be aware of, and how can they proactively address those issues?
So one thing, just like I said, right? One thing, it's a very big issue is the lack of term is what I always say is like if you want to save an appliance in your home, and that's any appliance for that matter. It could be your dishwasher, it could be your microwave, right? Your probably your
Hmm.
most inexpensive is your microwave in your home. And I always say if you want to keep it, you have to maintain it. And one of the biggest issues in this industry is where a lot of homeowners, especially landlords for that matter, is where they don't see the appliance on a daily basis, right? Because it's not like the heat
Yeah.
is smacking you in the face every day. And it's not telling you, come check me out. It's not
Yeah.
like your TV that if it breaks down on you, like, oh, I need a new TV, right?
Yeah.
I got to go run to Target and go buy one. But
Yeah.
your heater is extremely important for a lot of numerous reasons. Obviously, it gives you your heat for your home, it gives you nice comfort, and you stay nice and comfortable in the house. Now, if you are a landlord and you have multi-family home or in a commercial setting, once again, the last thing you want to do is have the tenants give you a call and say this thing broke. The last thing you really want to have is them give you a call and say, "Hey, I have the fire department here because this heater's not working well. Something happened, but we don't know what."
Hmm.
It's happened and it can happen. I always say, just check it. Be proactive. Check it.
Got it. So one question I have on top of that, I guess the follow-up is, it sounds pretty obvious, but how do landlords, property owners proactively address these issues? I'm assuming it's through pretty regular maintenance, but I'll let you jump into that one.
Yeah, so regular maintenance, your regular routine maintenance, it's a thing that is almost dying for a lot of homeowners. And again, it's because and I believe it's because of the lack of knowledge. And homeowners don't know. So you go ahead and you purchase a home, whether it's a single, a three family, or even a commercial space, you're getting yourself into a big, massive investment that you don't know the ins and the outs of an HVAC system, probably the electrical, the plumbing, the X, Y, the Z. You're just going in there and you're diving yourself in there and going for just the investment piece. And I just want to make money on this and I want to have this for long term. Now, the average homeowner, I want to say probably 80% of an average homeowner that goes into buy a two family, three family, or even a single family has no idea what an HVAC system even is. And for that
Hmm.
matter, what it even does and how it should be maintained and treated. So it is extremely important to get your system checked. what I say to my personal opinion is when you are buying an investment property or even a property of your own, is to make sure that you call the professionals in. And when I say what I mean by that is to make sure that if you're not sure and you're against the fence of what should I do, who should I call, is this system working, is my roof okay? Well, don't trust the home inspector because the home
Mm,
inspector just presses a couple buttons here and there. If the system turns on, if the roof looks good with his drone, he's going to check off on it. He doesn't know the logistics of if it's running correctly or if it's even running at all. He just knows it
mm.
turned on. It sounded like it turned on. Biggest advice I can give is to make sure that you are calling the professional in for a very inexpensive cost and have them check that specific category in your home. Just so that way, now when you go in and you buy that property, you're going to open that door and say, okay, I know this part has been checked by the professional.
Yeah. Yep.
Make
Absolutely.
sense to
So,
you, Brandon?
oh yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm thinking in terms of it can be very costly in the long run if you don't do a lot of these things up front. And I guess if you're a seasoned investor and you're pretty familiar with the space and you've been through multiple properties and you know what a good roof versus a bad roof looks like, or I don't, who the heck knows what a good HVAC system looks like versus a non. So that's
Exactly.
definitely harder to tell, So because it's more than just how it looks, but I'm sure it's a lot of it's also about how it runs. Is it efficient? Is it a whole bunch of things? So yeah, I completely agree with bringing in individual professionals, especially if you're a newer investor buying property, just to also get trained on what to look for as you buy more property. So maybe on the first two or three, if you're just starting out, hire individual tradespeople versus just a general inspector just to learn. When I talk to a lot of my clients who are first getting into investing, I tell them you're going to real estate school. So all the money you're going to spend up in the first couple of years of investing, whether that be through paying tradespeople or evicting tenants or turnovers, I call it real estate school. So see somebody like you, that's just part of real estate school and bringing them in and learning. And if you see it that way, then it justifies kind of the cost, but also just the cost of your building in the long term. If you kind of disregard a lot of these things, it's like not changing the oil in your car for extended periods of time. And we know where that goes.
That's a
Yeah.
that's a great example, Brandon, because it's the truth. If you don't take care of something and think that it's going to last you, then
Yeah.
you have a different mindset on it. You really should be taking care of what you want for it to last. I had this one client that he had come across some money, so he wanted to do some commercial investing. So he did. And the last thing he knew about, because he was brand new to it, the last thing he knew about what an HVAC system does and what he needs to do to protect his investment. So we go there, we check it out, and sure enough, he needs a new HVAC system, $25,000 because it's a commercial space and it's a very large system. He had no idea that this is what these things are costing. So that went way over above his budget. That's why I always say get the professionals out to let them tell you, hey, you know what, before purchasing the property, this is what you should be looking at, and this is what you might be on the hook for.
Yep. Got it. All right, let's keep it moving. Can you share best practice in terms of setting up a preventive maintenance schedule for your HVAC systems in terms of multifamily? How often should it be inspected? Things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the let me just ask you a quick question. What do you
Sure.
think the life expectancy of a heater is? And when I say heater, I mean an oil appliance, a gas appliance, whatever's heating the home,
So in my case, I would say a lot of times I see boilers. If I were to guess, 25, 30 years.
right? And that's what a lot of people think, right? Because they say, I've had people tell me 30 to 50 years, and that's not the case. It's not going to last you 30 to 50 years. The life expectancy of an appliance that is natural gas or oil is 12 to 15 years, dependent upon your maintenance, right? And this
Mm,
is the question you just asked. So, dependent upon the maintenance that you give it and the treatment that you give it. If you treat your vehicle with respect, just like you said, and you give it the oil changes, right? And you give it the tire rotations and the change of tires every so often and the fluid flushes, then why not respect your heater that's going to give you life? Because
yeah.
if you don't, let me tell you something is one of the biggest things that we suffer from greatly is CO poisoning, right?
Mm,
And CO poisoning, 200 people a year or so die because of lack of maintenance and because their system was improperly running. They turned it on, didn't know, and the CO poisoning came into the home. And unfortunately, that's where the fire department comes in. So to answer your question a little better, I would say once a year, your system should always be checked. It's a very inexpensive thing. You're talking anywhere between $59 to 100, $199, depending on where you are, what part of the
Yep.
state, what company goes out there. But it's a very inexpensive once a year maintenance.
Yep.
It's actually cheaper than changing your oil in your vehicle because in a vehicle, you're doing it three, four times a year.
Hmm.
You're doing it for
Yep.
three, four times a year.
Yep. Yeah, and it's almost for me. It's been easier just to get on a maintenance schedule with a company like yours for my multifamily, and just like clockwork when that time of year comes around, it's like, all right, we're getting close. We're pushing up against winter, October or November time. It's like give them a call and say, hey, come through, do your thing, and we're good for another year. And it's like
And
clockwork.
And that's another thing. It's a great point you just made, right? As an investor, you want to make sure you have these things lined up. You don't want to be bothered with these. Say if you don't have a property manager and you're doing it yourself, well, have it lined up so that way you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to say, "Oh crap, it's already October. I got to get to that." Life
Mm.
gets at you so fast that by the time you know it, you're in March again. And
Oh
guess what
yeah.
you did? You didn't do your maintenance.
Yep.
Get a
Absolutely.
routine on the books maintenance. Hey, every year, October 14th at 2 o'clock, I want it done. And sure enough, we'll do it every October 14th at 2 p.m.
Yeah. Very good. Kind of moving outside of the maintenance part, another question I have is for value add investors when renovating multifamily building, how important is updating the HVAC system? Do you think that boosts property value by any means? Because I know a lot of investors that may go in and look at the HVAC system and say this is kind of bottom of the barrel in terms of what we need to update to
Right.
increase value on the property. So what are your thoughts?
So that's a really good question. So what I do know is that upgrading your HVAC system, depending upon which one it is and what you're going to update it with, you can definitely be adding an added value to your home of at least 10%. And the reason I
Mm,
say this is because like who doesn't want to go into a home and see a nice shiny brand new appliance, whether it's a refrigerator, whether it's a heater, but that right there will bring your investor eyes to open and say, well, I don't have to worry about that $20,000 piece of appliance,
yep.
right? Because the average HVAC system is anywhere between $15,000 to $25,000 nowadays.
Wow.
So it can bring up the value to it, and also it also brings up the warranty value, right? You have a new system, don't have to worry about it for 10 years. So the
Yep.
value on it is it just depends upon what you what you feel the value brings to you and to your home that you're about to purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess from my standpoint, I would say the value is in limited turnovers over the years. Buildings that have inefficient heating systems or just poor insulation, which is another topic. Generally, you're going to turn over tenants more often than if you do have a properly heated or cooled building, just naturally through tenants getting uncomfortable over time and say, hey, this building's just too cold in the winter times for me. I got to move on to something else. But again, that's kind of an insulation issue as well a lot of the times, but it also can just be an inefficient old heating system that
Could be.
it's no longer it's end of
And
use or end of
and
life.
and that's the thing too. A lot of investors, like myself, at some point I was actually paying the utilities for the tenants. Right, it all depends on where the property was, and some still do, some don't. I have chose to opt out on that, but some landlords and some investors still are paying for the utilities. So here's the thing: you go ahead and you're paying for the utilities. Yeah, you might look at it and say, well, I'm getting an extra $300 a month on it, or whatever it is that you're getting, but you are spending probably an additional $400 or $500 a month because it's such an inefficient system and
Mm,
not worth keeping in the home any longer. You can be
mm,
spending thousands and thousands of dollars thrown right out the window because you're just using a very inefficient system at that point.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Oh, very good. Let's see. What trends are you seeing in the HVAC industry that could impact multifamily properties in the near future in terms of maybe technology and energy savings regulations, anything coming that investors should be aware of?
So here's one of the biggest things that I try to educate a lot of people on is where a lot of people are, I guess they have a misconception about heat pumps. They believe that, heat pumps don't work. It's what I call it is a rumor. And trust me, I have rumors of my own because if I don't know something, it becomes a rumor. So I believe what I believe. Now, heat pumps are one of the most efficient appliances out there today. They
Mm,
have one of the most effective and smartest technology inside them, which is called an inverter technology. Now, heat pumps today, if I was to put a heat pump in a commercial space, in a residential application, doesn't matter where I put it, these heat pumps go down to below 22 degrees. Again, below 22 degrees and lose 0% efficiency. So your system, when it's 5 degrees outside, because it's New England, so we know it's going to happen at some point, right?
Yep.
So living here in New England, it's going to happen. We've been having mild temperatures and mild weather, so it's great. But that day comes, and when it's 5 degrees outside, there is no appliance inside your home that is meant to work at 0 degrees. There isn't.
Yeah.
But guess what? The heat pump is. The heat pump is made to work below 22 degrees. So this is meant to work in Vermont, New Hampshire, places that are extremely cold out. So with that being said, there's so many rebates that are out there where a lot of homeowners don't know of, and they just feel like it's a heat pump. It's not supposed to be here in the north. It should be in the south. The technology that they have nowadays, it's well worth looking into it. It's well worth the program rebates that they have and the incentives, the tax credits. It's a huge gain, a huge
Yeah.
gain. I look at it like this. So there's average customers that are spending 25 to $5,000 on oil. It's obviously dependent on use. That all depends on the use. Depends on if you have it on 60 degrees or on 74 degrees. All dependent upon. Here's the thing. On a heat pump, on an average use to heat your home on a yearly base, it's $1,200 to $2,000. That's 50% that
Mm.
you can be saving. Like, who doesn't want to save 50%? Your
Yeah.
ROI on that is at least 5 years before you get all that money back. You can save
Yeah.
$10,000 in about 5 years.
Yep.
It makes perfect sense on an investor's pocket, peace of mind, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And I imagine the other return on investment on that is retention of tenants, because most of those
Absolutely.
systems have heating and cooling. So the fact that they have cooling, you don't have to have those big AC units hanging out the window anymore with that liability is removed. So absolutely, and in full transparency, me as well, I had that understanding that the heat pumps only go but so cold. Obviously, if it's negative 30 degrees outside, we have a whole nother story. But yeah, from what I understood, because I don't have any of my properties yet, I guess just to kind of bring it back. So what I'm assuming some of the earlier models did have issues. Was it an issue where once they hit a certain temperature, they would stop working or they just wouldn't work as well?
So that's a really good question. That's a very good question, and that's where all the rumors started from. The question that you just have, and I'm going to clear
Yeah.
the air. So many years ago, a lot of condos here in Connecticut still have heat pumps, and that's all they're going to ever have is heat pumps. And when they built these condos 30, 40 years ago, they only had what they had, and there was no smart technology in these heat pumps. So when they ran, they could only run to, I would say, about 20 degrees before you lost any efficiency, right?
Mm.
And once it got below 20 degrees, not below 20, but under 20 degrees, your system would start to struggle. And once it starts to struggle, there is a component inside that's called the electric strip, which that would now take over for most of the time that it's running. And
Mm.
I look at it and I look at it as a toaster oven. So if you ever look at inside your toaster oven, there's those red strips. It's identical to it, and it's inside your indoor unit. Now, once that kicks in, that's kicking in on 208, 230 volts, direct watts, direct amps, and it's drawing some serious electricity. So, yes, at that point is when your system starts to deplete in efficiency and also even bigger in capacity because now it
Mm.
can't give you what it's supposed to give you. So, to answer your question, years ago, they didn't have all that technology. So, that's where a lot of people started thinking, well, it's a heat pump, and that's still stuck in their mind. And
Mm.
heat pumps aren't for me. Well, heat pumps are one of the most efficient systems today, and the state and government are giving some massive rebates, which is unbelievable what they're giving.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on, not to get off track, but the Navi and all-in-one combo units that do the heating and, I'm sorry, the heating and the hot water in one unit? Have you had success with those in the past?
Very successful with those.
Yeah.
We've been actually entertaining them for the last 15 years. And it's actually a choice that I have at home as well, right? So I have a Navian, I have forced air. I like to play around with everything to see what works best and what doesn't. So the Navians work extremely efficient. They're extremely quiet. But once again, it's a good question you asked. They do not last long if you are not maintaining them. And I can't
Mm,
emphasize that long enough because Navians need, and those high efficiency boilers need water treatment to them. Because
mm.
if they don't get a water treatment, like we know, you've been in the field a really long time. How many times you've gone to these houses in Hartford or West Hartford? They have 4-inch pipes coming in the basement,
Yeah,
cast iron piping. All that cast iron piping starts to break down and deteriorate because that's all it's doing. And where does it go? It's going right
yeah.
to your appliance, right? That's
Mm.
why I say it's extremely important. If you want that appliance to last you 20 years, maintain it. But they are very, very efficient and they are very quiet and they're very comfortable to run.
Got it. So, yeah, I'm so interested in this. So, and this is off script, this question, but I'm sure you can answer. If you were to build a brand new multifamily, let's say small multifamily, a brand new 4 unit property today, what type of HVAC system would you put in it in New
You
England?
that's a great question because no one's ever asked me that. So that's that's a good one, right? They
Yeah.
always ask me if it was your home, what would you do? That's like the biggest question that everybody gets asked.
Hmm.
Honestly, I am a big believer in the heat pumps. So what I would do is because I'm also a big believer in the Navien boiler. So probably two things I would do is install a Navien boiler, but only as a hydro, right? So I would still have the heat pump. So now you'll have dual fuel. So I would have the heat pump to run till probably, I don't know, I would call it 10 degrees. Me knowing still that this system's going to run below 22 degrees with no problem. But
Yep.
at 10, 20 degrees, I would automatically have my boiler turn on and give me the Navion operation of it. So I probably
Mm,
would run a Navion and also alongside of it in tag team would be a heat pump as well. Absolutely.
got it. Hmm. Ah, very good. Yeah, I'm sure that'd be useful for those who are doing either gut rehabs or new developments of small multifamily, or even mid-sized to large multifamily. So, all right, cool. So, I mean, we pretty much got through all the technical stuff. So, we're going to move ahead onto some personal questions. When you're not operating and running your business, what are you doing? What do you enjoy doing?
When I am not operating and enjoying the business, probably 15 to 20 hours a day, I, and I enjoy going out with the family, going out to eat, going out to, going out to events. Just like over the weekend, went to
Yeah.
the Pumpkin Patch in Rocky Hill. We took our grandkid there. Golfing, right? Golf is a great sport. I am probably one of the worst teammates that you'll ever have on your side. But it's just the experience of you going there and you swinging and just socializing and
Yeah.
having a great time. That's all it's about. It's just having a great time. I would say don't invite me for more than 9 holes because I would probably start falling asleep at
Yeah, I've learned golf. Yeah, golf
that.
is definitely it's 90% social, 10% skill because 90% of people out there suck no matter how good they look until they get out there and you see like, wow.
It's funny you say that because I have a lot of friends that we go golfing, right?
Yeah.
This year I've only went twice, but on average I go about 10, 15 times a year. And every person that I have ever golfed with, that I'm like, man, this guy has to be great. And he gets to, I'm like, what happened here?
Yep, it is.
So
It's
you're
surprising.
absolutely
You're humble, yeah. And it's just like, okay, I'll be all right. It just resets your brain immediately. You're like, all right, this is gonna be
right.
okay.
Yep. Hey, if he's
But
like that, then I'm a champ.
all right, no, cool. So, how can people find you, get a hold of you?
So we are on all social media platforms. We are on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're actually about to launch in 25. We're going to be on YouTube. We're going to have our
Nice.
YouTube channel and also YouTube ads. So you're going to be able to find us there as well. Our YouTube channel is going to be a lot of more informative stuff, like almost like what we just talked about as well. Just because a lot of homeowners, they want to do things themselves and they want to save a buck. Not that I am applauding it and telling you to do that, because you saving $50 can, in the long run, mean $3,000 that you now are in a hole in, right?
Hmm.
Because you did something incorrect. But at least giving them that information. We're on Facebook. We're going to be on YouTube, Instagram. You can find us at Precise HVAC Home Services.com. We have a very, very nice website where it can show you all our services, all our installations that we've done. There's pictures, videos, and things like that in there. And I think that's pretty much it.
Very good. Any final words for the audience before we take off?
One thing I have to say is, again, I want to tell you thank you very much for
Yeah.
having me on. It's a pleasure. Seriously, it is. One thing I want to say is before you purchase a property, make sure you have the professional come. It's extremely important. I can't emphasize that enough. We come across so many homeowners brand new to the home. Doesn't mean it was their first home, but brand new to that home, and they call us out and say, my heater doesn't work. And when we go there and we see that they need three, four, $5,000 in repairs,
Mm,
it's just mind boggling to me, and it's unfair. It really is.
yeah.
It's unfair. And it's a disservice for them and for the home inspector that he doesn't know much, right? It's not his fault and it's not his problem, or hers, right? I'm sorry, it's not his or her issue. So call the professionals, and they will and should you guide you directly to the right source of the problem. Here's the bigger question: is who is the professional? Who can we trust? Right?
Mm,
How do we know? Well, the only thing I can say is make sure that the person you are allowing in your home has the proper license first.
hmm
You, as a customer, you, as a homeowner, you, as a consumer, can tell the contractor, let me see your license before you come into my home, or before you even schedule the call. I need to see your credentials. That's very important. Before he or she arrives to your home, you can look them up and see if they've had any violations on their contractor's license, or any license for that matter.
mm,
Now, once you have all that, make sure you check them out on the Better Business Bureau. If they're A, if they're B, check them out on their Facebook, on their Instagram, all social media platforms, on their Google and their Yelp. See what reviews they've gotten, right? I was a big non believer of reviews, because I really was. My wife was one that said, we're not going to that restaurant because that place has bad reviews.
mm.
And I said, knock it off. We're gonna go there anyway, right? But here we are 10 years later. We've been together a really long time, but 10 years later since that conversation, I myself am looking at reviews to see if I'm really going to that restaurant. So it's
Yeah.
it's what we need to do to protect your assets. You need to protect yourself and protect your assets. Make sure that the person that's coming to your home is well respected, it's been around for a while, and has great reviews, and they're fully licensed and insured.
Got it. Perfect. All right. So we're going to wrap it up there. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us for another episode of The Agent Investor. First off, Jose, man, thank you so much for joining us and throwing some knowledge on us regarding HVAC services. And hopefully everyone keeps you in mind. Really quick, what areas do you service, just so the world knows?
So we service 83% of Connecticut. So if you give us a call, you're probably going to get us. We don't do Fairfield County and Litchfield County. Besides that, we do the rest of the state.
Perfect. All right, cool. Well, once again, thank you so much, Jose, for jumping on. And to our audience, thank you all so much. We wish you all the best in your health and happiness. And until the next time, we'll see you later.